meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission. I think our time is about 6:02. Let's go through the roll call list. We have Commissioner Hall here. Commissioner Billsborough. Commissioner Billsborough? Nope, not present. Commissioner Garrity? Commissioner Garrity? Nope. Commissioner Garrison? All right. I see Commissioner Gilbert is here. Commissioner Larson?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
And Chair Buss, I just received a text from Commissioner Garrity. He indicated that his Wi-Fi connection is down at the moment, so he cannot connect. I'm going to suggest that he phone in until his Wi-Fi is available.
Okay. All right. Good plan. And Commissioner Montero? No? All right. And I think, is Commissioner Nucci here?
Nucci, present.
All right. Hey, Joe, we can hear you this time. Great. All right. We have enough commissioners to get started here. All right. We'll begin here. Does anyone have any issues they would like to place on a future agenda, as we are limited to what's stated on this agenda? Anyone for future agendas? No? All right. Then let's go on to approval of the February 10th meeting minutes. Does anyone have any corrections, additions to make to that?
I have no substantive changes.
All right. I know it was a long meeting minutes this time, about 10 pages. Anyone else?
I have no changes to it. I would move to approve them.
All right.
I'll second.
All right. And let's go through our list again. All in favor, starting with Commissioner Ball.
Aye.
All right. Commissioner Gilbert.
I have to abstain. I wasn't present for that meeting.
All right. Thanks. Commissioner Larson.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Nucci.
Aye.
And I myself. Do we have any other commissioners that have joined us in the last couple of moments?
So Chair Buss, it looks as if perhaps Commissioner Montero was able to sign on. I don't see her on the panelist display, but I don't know if perhaps Brittany, if she's in the public attendance.
No, she's not in there.
Okay. 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 Very good.
Oh.
Recommend we table that one and come back to it. Finish our vote.
I think that's a good idea, Commissioner. We don't have a quorum on that one there.
Yeah. Only choice.
All right. Well, we'll
Actually, Chair Buss, I'm sorry to interrupt. I see there is a call-in user,
okay.
and it looks as if Commissioner Montero may be calling in.
Okay.
Is there a way, Brittany, to confirm if that call-in user is in fact Commissioner Montero?
Colin, who are you? You're unmuted. You could speak.
The anticipation is building. Who is it?
I see Chris Garrity.
They're gone now. So they're gone now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and Commissioner Montero said she's at her computer now and logging in momentarily if we wish to get back to that vote in just a moment.
I do see Chris Garrity's name on my screen now.
Oh, good, good, excellent.
Yeah, that was me who called. My Wi-Fi was down, but suddenly started working while it was ringing out. So I just joined.
Great.
Regular one.
Well, we were doing We had a motion to approve the February 10th meeting minutes. Would you like to weigh in on that?
Yes, I approve. Aye.
Aye, all right. I think we have 5 on that, so we have approval of the February 10th meeting minutes as stated. Let's move on then to agenda item number 5, Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And what can you tell us about that, John?
Sure, Chair Buss. This is a matter that has been before the Historic Preservation Commission at past meetings. Craig Hayden, the Parks and Recreation Director, I believe is unable to attend today. However, Sean Thompson, I believe, is present from Parks to present on, or Sean Wagner, I apologize, is present, and Sean will be making the presentation.
Yes, sir. And John, will somebody be sharing the presentation on the screen?
Brittany, can you allow Sean to share his screen?
All righty, give me 1 second here. And if you just confirm if you could see the slide presentation, please.
We can, and real quick, just for the minutes, I see that Commissioner Montero is now signed in as well at 6:08.
Are we ready
My
to go?
apologies. Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Technical difficulties.
We've all been there. Good evening, everyone, and our Historic Preservation Commission members. My name's Sean Wagner, and I work in the Parks and Recreation Division within the Community Services Department. And in the past, it's true, you've seen Craig Hayden, I think 2 other times, but we're both genuinely excited about this opportunity, and we're getting very close to completing the master plan, which will hopefully lead us into the more exciting phase of its implementation. So as you're aware, we operate with some of the council strategic priorities here. The ones we really feel we're honing in here and focusing on is within the quality of life performance measure, and the priorities 3.16 and 3.17. So 3.16, it talks about the quality of our centers. And when I talk about centers or facilities, I don't just mean the brick and mortar recreation centers, but we're also talking about parks and playgrounds and all of that infrastructure. So that gets lumped in here too to 3.16. And then within 3.17, we're talking about those programs and services we provide to the community, everything from adaptive recreation to boating on the lake to sports leagues, to health and fitness classes. We're really excited about the opportunity to continue providing those services even during COVID, but even more excited about re-engaging with folks in person when it's appropriate. So tonight, again, appreciating this opportunity, just want to give you a brief overview. I'll be talking about some of the plan format this evening, as well as the guiding principles and strategies for the plan, and then just highlighting some of our next steps and where we're at in the timeline. There will be some times for questions and comments at the end. If you need to get a hold of me ahead of time, I can't see you on the screen, so just feel free to interrupt me or excuse me or something along those lines. I'm happy to stop and explain something further. Or we'll have some time at the end, however you'd like to address that. And one thing I'd like to just point out real quickly while we're here at the beginning of this is just a huge thanks to John Southard. He's been a part of the technical advisory team for this actual effort, and John has provided a lot of comments and a lot of direction, and really, made sure that we included those aspects from historic preservation that we contribute to, and that where we overlap, and how we can also then help promote it moving forward. So a big thank you to John. I know it's taken up some time, but we really have truly appreciated his feedback and his comments and insights. So as John mentioned, and as you've seen previous, Craig's been here to discuss the planning process and the format. And then most recently, he was here talking about the level of service. And just a quick reminder on the whole level of service. This is where the level of service, it helps us assess our recreation experiences for our residents. That's kind of the easy way to put that. But we do that by, as you'll see within the plan, we do that by assigning a level of service metric, and then we're actually able to determine how much of that facility we'll need moving on into the future based on population growth. And we're also considering just demographics within the city as well too, looking at our various park classifications and where in the future we may need additional or we may need to reprioritize. So the exciting part about this is the story map. So this is really a new feature for us that we're working with. It allows for a much better user experience, and we encourage you to go out and take a look at this. It is available on the Tempe forum site, so tempe.gov/forum. If you go on there, there's a link. And again, you can also provide feedback through the forum. This is going to be open for a little bit, for a few weeks, and we're taking any and all feedback and comments before we refine this and continue to move forward. But it's online, it's interactive. It allows you just to jump to whatever chapter you may want to go to. And then within each one of these chapters, it's subdivided. So you can actually jump around in there. And some of the other exciting part about this is we actually link to other supporting documents. So all of that is right here in front of you and right at your fingertips. But for those that still enjoy either scrolling through a PDF or actually want a printed copy, that option still exists. And folks can by all means print this out and engage with us that way, and we would appreciate the feedback however you'd like to come about giving it to us. So we've got guiding principles and we've got the strategic priorities with the City Council. We've got all 5 of those, as you'll see here on the left. But then we did feel it was appropriate for us to refine and drill down a little more for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And we developed 4 guiding principles here. And those 4 you can see in front of you are the first one is inclusion. And what we mean by inclusion is providing access and opportunity for all. And it doesn't matter, it's regardless of age, gender, ethnicity, income, or ability. We want you to be included. We want that to be a guiding principle for our plan. Then there's resilience. And this really talks to how Parks and Recreation helps communities thrive during those disruptive environmental, societal, and health events. Through some like COVID, just what we're going on right now. Parks and Recreation has remained pivotal to the continuation of city services by providing various essential services such as childcare, as well as just our open space that we continue to maintain and make available has been very good. It's been great for folks to be able to get out and just walk and exercise and maintain their physical health, but also their mental health. Strategic, what we mean here is just a flexible system that focuses on continuous improvement. So we always realize that as our community grows, so must we, and we've got to remain flexible in doing that. And then lastly, we have sustainability. And here we're talking about these systems and services that enrich and sustain our community. They nurture the environment and they contribute to the economy. So those were the 4 strategies, the guiding principles on which our strategies were developed for this plan. Oops, I went a little too fast there. So I'm going to highlight on 2 of the plan strategies and those guiding principles, and that's the inclusion one here. And here's where we really feel we've been able to bring in and integrate some of those historic pieces, the historic preservation pieces into the plan. And as you can see here, we want to make sure we continue to identify historic and cultural significance, and then continue to engage in that community conversation, not only with our Tempe residents, but also our tribal communities, as well as our historic preservation officer. Continuing to increase our culturally diverse programming and design so that we can better serve our residents. And then also incorporating indigenous design and perspectives into things such as park signage or naming, or even the design of a facility or a playground. And then lastly here, just reflecting that again within the elements of the park, where we're needing to blend, the modern, where we're at now, and we make it engaging and exciting for folks to visit our parks, but also then still recognizing our historical and indigenous culture and character within our community. The second strategy I'll briefly touch on here with this is sustainability. And here's where we're able to enhance some natural areas through appropriate amenities, programs, and events. Again, talking about signage. In this case, though, this is how we're going to engage the visitor in our park or in our building, how we're going to engage them and connect them to the landscape and conservation and other efforts that we have going on within the city. And then also a habitat between Papago Preserve and Rio Salado Parks. That's a specific strategy that we're going to be able to just drive down a little deeper into that, and we're really excited about that. And then lastly, developing and implementing these management plans for Tempe's desert preserves. And Craig really leads up that charge right now, with Papago being recently designated as a preserve, and adding that to the list with Hayden Butte, or AKA A Mountain. So, and again, these are just a sampling. So I encourage you to go on and look through this plan. We have at least 100 of these strategies that are out there. And this, again, it's going to help guide us over the next 10 years is really how we're looking at this. But then also realizing that as we go into this and we begin taking those steps, that there's got to be some room for some flexibility, and we're going to continue to work with the community and engage in those conversations, so we come up with something that really represents Tempe, who we are, where we came from, and where we're going. So here's our timeline and next steps. So we're right in the thick of the boards and commissions piece of this, of following back up with folks. And right now, I think we've got about 12 of these presentations that we're going around within the next month and a half. And again, it's something Craig and I are invested in. We truly do appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. So again, thank you for that. We're also going to have a public meeting next week, which you're invited to attend as well as the survey that'll exist out there on the Tempe Forum site. Then later on in April, we're going to hit the council work study session. We'll provide them an update and an opportunity for some feedback as well. And then anticipating, the finalization of the plan and the formal adoption in May and June. So at this time, that's it. Hopefully that was quick and painless for you. But I appreciate any feedback you'd like to give me now. I'll take it, and I'll pass that along. And Craig and I will, go back and take a look at the plan here and see what we can do. But again, at the end of the day here, truly appreciate the opportunity to talk with you this evening.
I've got a quick question for you, Commissioner Ball.
Yes, sir.
I wonder, you mentioned the idea of creating an arid or I think it was a riparian solution associated with both the river and the Papago Buttes area.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of different jurisdictions and a lot of different entities tied to those sites. Have you had opportunities to connect with SRP regarding their existing canal alignments in a similar way? Is SRP as an entity receptive to those kinds of approaches? I mention it specifically because of the unusual condition that we have at Sella Park,
Mm-hmm.
which is, the vegetation and the trees are unique there, I think because of the historic irrigation alignment through that park. And the property to the west, I am imagining, is an SRP or a local canal owned property that is the polar opposite of the lush, green, useful space that Sella Park is. And I was wondering if that might represent an opportunity to look at that space in a different way, so that it was of some greater use in our city, and then highlighted the fact that it is a historic alignment that is one of the reasons that Tempe exists as a city these days.
So I have not, but I will take that information and I'll pass it along to Craig Hayden, as he would be the one to follow up on that. He does a lot more of our park maintenance and preserve. So by all means, I appreciate that. Thank you. And we'll follow up on that.
Did anyone else have a question for Sean?
I do have a question. This Commissioner Larson, what is your feel on the park hours beginning at 6 a.m. In contrast with opening instead of 6 earlier at perhaps 5 a.m.?
That would be a conversation we would have with the community. If that's something that's got community support, it's definitely something I think we could look at taking forward. But that would be something we would, talk about with the community. It's not more or less what I personally feel. And I'm not saying that that's what you're getting at. It would be something that would be a larger community conversation that we would need to engage in moving forward.
Got it. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Sean, that's a good question that Commissioner Larson had. Could the park hours simply state they start at dawn, for instance?
I would think if we're going to engage in this conversation, all that could be on the table, and that's something we would fully vet, within that. So again, I would say yes to, as a quick answer, but again, something I would want to see if that's something we could to vet and make sure I don't know if there are some other considerations, to be quite frank with you, that I'm not thinking of at this time. So, but I've got the note, and I'll make sure that we follow up with you. Not a problem.
All right. Yeah, good justification for opening the park early, but then, in the middle of winter, maybe the sun doesn't rise till 7 a.m. and you really want people there before sunrise because we don't know, maybe bad things are happening before the sun rises in the park.
Sunrise and sunset are usually pretty good times in a park, before or after either one of those, before sunrise or after sunset. We do realize that there's the opportunity for some of those other activities to take place that are a little bit more deviant. But we also, for example, it's easier to point to some of the, the lighting in parks to be able to keep those open longer so that we can better serve the community through like leagues, and some of those types of activities like Little League or adult softball leagues, those types of things. But those, on the flip side, those typically don't occur earlier in the morning, quite frankly. But we do have folks that like to get out and exercise and walk, and I get that as well too, that, an earlier opening or something may help to better facilitate that as well too, for the early risers.
That's true. I keep forgetting we have lights on there for the nighttime, and I guess I'm forgetting they're on there in the morning too. They
can be.
You guys should drop that dawn idea. When do our parks typically close? Is it midnight?
Typically 10.
Yeah. Okay.
10. We have some that can stay open until midnight, and then if it's a special event, they're permitted to operate outside of those hours. But we also make sure that if it's in a community with residential surroundings, we make sure they're involved, and oftentimes we don't go beyond 10 for a residential park anyways. We realize that, that we don't want to inconvenience them, too much when it comes to that.
And do all of our parks have lighting at this point, or some of the small ones don't? Maybe?
I want to say they all have lighting. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of one, but some are probably better equipped with some newer technology than others right now. And we're in the process right now. Our city council, to be honest, has been very good about supporting park infrastructure improvement. And we're actually making our way around, and Craig and his team are doing a phenomenal job of coming in and renovating different elements in parks, especially those baseline elements, which include things like lighting and existing infrastructure.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have any questions for Sean? Well, thank you, Sean.
Thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, we
Thank you.
More in the future.
Y'all have a nice evening.
All right, let's move on to agenda item number 4, announcements of upcoming Tempe Historic Property Register nominations.
Thank you, Chair Buss. This is an opportunity for the commission to weigh in on what the Historic Preservation Office has determined to be eligible properties for listing in the Tempe Historic Property Register, and properties that it is anticipated will soon be nominated for the Tempe Historic Property Register, and so therefore come into the commission and subsequently the DRC and the City Council. Those properties are the Gonzales Martinez house, which is listed in the National Register but not locally designated. It is classified as historic eligible. It is a circa 1880 adobe house on 1st Street, just west of Ash Avenue on the north side of 1st. And then the north side of 8th Street east of Rural Road, where the recent archaeological work occurred. Both of these properties are city-owned properties. There are some protections in place at the moment by virtue of city ownership. That said, nomination and subsequently placing them on the Tempe Historic Property Register, it is anticipated will provide additional protection and recognition that is deserved. The additional protection, particularly as relates to, say, 8th Street, would come in the form of someday should I move on to another position or we have staff change out, there will be something formalizing the fact that there are resources in place that need special attention and management. So really it's a matter of safeguarding that. So should the commission have any input, any suggestions, any thoughts on either of those properties, I'd be certainly open to hearing that. If not, we will proceed with internal discussions and hopefully bring nominations forth to the commission in the very, very near future.
All right, thank you. They sound like worthy properties to nominate. I met with you over at the 8th Street site, whatever that was, a few months ago, and it's very significant. I think it's worthy of nomination.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah. I trust that as this is one of our items for discussion, that the city is amenable to making this happen.
There is not yet any objection that I am aware of.
I think it's a great idea.
I have one question. Is there any thought about nominating it to the National Register, the 8th Street site? And I just ask because I guess you would be more eligible for funding for, maybe developing some interpretive exhibits.
There is certainly thought, Commissioner Montero, of nominating it to the National Register. It has been indicated by Salt River and Gila River that they do consider that location to be a TCP. I believe that nomination could be put together relatively easily. Under D, we know that the railroad tracks are National Register eligible under criterion A. That I suspect would have to factor into the nomination, but yes, there is consideration of that, and that is a very good point regarding potential funding. I also want to get one of those plaques that you guys have at Pueblo Grande acknowledging the irrigation system as a engineering, perhaps it's engineering marvel, I think. Is it the American Society of Civil Engineers? So yeah. We have some work to do for 8th Street, yes.
Okay, cool.
All for it.
All right. Anyone else with any thoughts? Commissioner Nucci, perhaps?
Chair Buss?
Yes, go ahead.
This is Alex. Back to Commissioner Ball's question about city support. At this point, John and I know that they're valuable locations and valuable assets, and I believe we have the support in terms of the preservation program as a whole of the city management. So what we would do is take the recommendation from the HPC to management and then run the appropriate listings through the system when the time comes.
All right.
But we would have to check in, as they say, with the bosses before we put it on a city council agenda.
Okay. Does that
or actually bring it back, forgive me, bring it back to the commission formally.
Okay, that was my next question, whether
yeah.
We're ready for that today or at another time.
John's training me slowly. I have a hard head, so forgive me.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Larson. John, do you have an idea of when it may be brought formally to the commission?
Commissioner Larson, I aside from soon, preferably very soon, no. I think it's plausible that they could be on the next agenda. It's also entirely possible that it be 2 or 3 weeks, but I would anticipate sooner rather than later.
All right. Thanks.
Certainly.
Did anyone else have any thoughts on the topic? No.
I was just going to say, let me know if you need help.
Thank you, Commissioner Montero. We do.
Okay.
All right, John. So I guess we'll let you proceed on this. You have a lot of positive comments on the topic.
It's very exciting. Yes, I hope to bring both those items back to the commission very soon here.
All right. Thanks, John. Okay, well, let's move on to agenda item number 5, introduction of cultural resources inventory, monitoring, discovery, and treatment.
Thank you, Chair Buss. So this is the introduction, much as the commission received an introduction to the Historic Preservation Plan update in 1961 to 75 citywide survey and survey of the built environment within the what was to be the urban core. This provides an overview to the commission, and there's a written overview included in the packet, but an overview of the work that is being done as relates to the cultural resources inventory and the blanket monitoring, discovery, and treatment plan that would be produced. There was an RFQ put out by the city some time ago now. Logan Simpson was selected to prepare this document and undertake this work. They are working with Dr. Andy Darling of Southwest Heritage Research to complete this project. It is a project much like the HP plan that unfortunately has been delayed as a result of the pandemic. Access to archives has been a challenge. Ethnographic interviews have proved challenging, along with any number of other speed bumps related to the pandemic. What the intent of this is first to create a comprehensive inventory of our cultural resources in Tempe. It is, of course, well known that there are, let's say, petroglyphs on the Butte. It is well known that Loma del Rio is an archaeological site listed in the Tempe Historic Property Register. We don't have the firm grasp on what cultural resources, to include landforms and TCPs, may be present, and we certainly don't have the level of documentation that is necessary to effectively manage these resources. So there is an ongoing effort to scour archival resources to determine where cultural resources may be located, what areas, what landforms, etc., may be perceived as cultural resources and need to be managed. As such, this is also where the ethnographic component will come in. Of course, outreach to our tribal partners is a very important piece of this here. Without that knowledge being shared, this is not something that we'll be able to compile and be able to assert as having any credibility. So in addition to that cultural resources inventory, this plan calls for the development of a blanket monitoring, discovery, and treatment plan. As it stands, if there is a project in the city that has a federal nexus, Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act applies. Compliance is required if it is within an archaeological site, known or suspected, etc. There is that mitigation that is discussed, consulted on, and then undertaken. If it is a activity that involves ground disturbance and it is on state land to include political subdivisions thereof, such as counties and cities, so City of Tempe owned land. If there's to be ground disturbance within an archaeological site on city-owned land, we are required currently to comply with the Arizona Antiquities Act. What we don't have is a policy relating to archaeology outside of what is required by state and federal law. And we also do not have a blanket plan. This plan would allow for archaeological consultants to be better prepared for their work in Tempe, not only understanding the expectations of the city, and this is something that will be consulted upon by ASM and others, but this will provide the background knowledge that often takes a fair amount of time and work to develop, so that we can ensure that we deploy those archaeological contractors sooner than they would otherwise be able to, and ideally at far less cost overall, because they do not have to reinvent the wheel time and time again. So that is a project overview. We are going to have a kickoff meeting with those parties who have asked to consult on this next week. Certainly we'll be working very closely with the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community and the Gila River Indian community, in addition to the Arizona State Museum, so that we can ensure we have a plan that is vetted, that addresses all concerns, and one that we can then put to use as a resource for the city. With that, should anyone have questions, or certainly any suggestions, any areas that they'd like to see addressed in this that have not been discussed, any input as to how to proceed, or potential pitfalls or landmines, I would welcome that input.
Mr. Chairman.
I just have one question, because a few times you've referred to it as a monitoring and discovery plan, but is it a treatment plan as well, like a general treatment plan for data recovery, you know, in non-discovery situations?
So yes, Chair Buss, Commissioner Montero, it is a blanket monitoring, discovery, and treatment plan. So it will address all of the above.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Nucci?
This is Commissioner Nucci.
Yes.
John, I wonder if for our next meeting, if you could kind of give us a sense of where the other planning efforts are at in the department, where we're at specifically in terms of land use planning, the general plan update to the land use plan, or the fate, if you would, or the interim status of the urban core master plan, because I have a sense that we could really anticipate those broader processes with the information that we're producing here, and that if we just are watching and paying close attention, we could get something that's really well integrated in terms of a planning effort in the broader context of all of the city's planning processes.
Chair Buss, Commissioner Nucci, I'll speak with Alex about that. I suspect that we would be able to bring forward updates, at least what is known regarding certainly the general plan update, land use planning, the fate of the urban core master plan, which, as I understand it, is sealed, but I believe we can bring something forward for the benefit of the commission.
Chair Buss, this is Steve Abrahamson. I can let you know that General Plan 2050, we have a kickoff meeting tomorrow for that. So it's underway, and I can report back, or somebody can report back to what the progress is along the way.
All right, thank you.
And Chair Buss, if I may, Commissioner Garrity, of course, works for Logan Simpson. Commissioner Garrity is there. Anything I didn't cover, anything that you'd like to share that you believe would be of value to the commission?
No, I think you covered it all pretty well. We have Andy Darling on, which you already mentioned, but given the work that Andy's done so far for this on various city projects, I'm excited to see what he comes up with on here. And I'm also excited, sort of best laid plans. We planned a lot of this work in late 2019, early 2020, based on, we're going to have a series of meetings at kickoff and at various stages based on the assumption that we could meet in person with the tribes and other groups. And of course, the pandemic happened and that got thrown out the window. So our original planned schedule kind of got thrown for a loop, and it's allowed us to kind of move ahead with a lot of the cultural resource inventory work, even in advance of the meeting work. And already that's producing some interesting results. We found potential sites in areas that aren't really well known or well understood. Those, they haven't been verified. We'd have to go out and see if they're there. But that was one of the goals that John and I discussed, is looking for areas sort of off the beaten track. We have a very good record of some of the major sites in the city through ASM and through just, more than a century of archaeological work done in the area. There are other sites that seem to be a number of smaller sites that over the years have just sort of fallen off the radar. They haven't gotten, they might have been discovered early in the 1900s, but no further work has happened since. And that's, I think, where we can make one area where I think we can make a really positive contribution and do something different that might be maybe a model for other places as well. So that's all I have to add. And just to address Lorraine's question, we're calling it just an archaeology management plan as a more broader, because it covers monitoring discovery situations and data recovery. As well as,
yeah, looking forward to seeing how it goes. Sounds pretty.
Same here. Thank you.
Right. Anyone
That's all
else?
I have is anyone. Oh, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
I was just saying, if anybody else has questions, I'm happy to. John and we can answer them, hopefully. All right. Thank you.
Seeing none.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. To be continued. Let's move on to agenda item number 6, historic preservation plan priorities.
Thank you, Chair Buss. As discussed at past meetings, the historic preservation plan update will likely be a topic that is agendized regularly. We have had some helpful feedback at past meetings. As an example, Vice Chair Ball suggested that we gain perspective on best practices in other communities, particularly as relates to, say, nearby construction, new construction, and integrating that within historic districts, and looking for some degree of compatibility with historic look and feel. How we go about sharing the priorities with the City Council. Commissioner Montero discussed the need for ensuring that archaeology and other cultural resource issues are addressed. Commissioner Garrison, who unfortunately it looks as if he's not been able to make it tonight, discussed expanding some of the points that were initially presented, and we did provide a rather broad overview. What I'd like to bring forward for discussion are some potential priorities for the Historic Preservation Office as relates to the program itself. One of the big questions that has gone unresolved, at least formally unresolved, is the matter of Proposition 207 and historic districts. what exactly the city position is as relates to that. That is a priority. That is a question that comes up with some regularity. How would we go about designating an historic district in this environment? And with the Proposition 207 related concerns, is historic designation, in fact, a diminution of value? We're also, of course, looking to compile and further develop our contexts. This is something that, given the limited staffing of the office, would be of great value because as properties come forward for consideration, if we do not have the means readily available to compare those properties to the known universe of candidates to determine whether or not they are in fact significant, whether they have integrity as related or as compared to other examples, if they are in fact a rare and surviving example, those things need to be known. A lot of process related questions, looking at eligibility, language in the ordinance regarding eligibility, the question of, is this something that perhaps should be more consistent with the National Register criteria so that there is some degree of easy translation between the two, so to speak. The process itself, I know there has been discussion in the past about the idea of neighborhood meetings relating to designations, what the timeline is, et cetera. And then questions that have been addressed elsewhere, as an example, in the city of Phoenix. What is our policy regarding buildings that are 50 years of age or more that are put forward for demolition, even if they are not listed in the Tempe Historic Property Register or classified historic eligible? Would it be prudent for the city to evaluate the significance of those properties prior to issuing demolition permits? Certainly that's a very valid question. As I understand it, Tucson may have had a policy change in that area as well recently. Some of the other things, looking at periodically updating our inventories. As the commission knows, our last residential survey and inventory was completed in 2001. Here we are in 2021 working on its follow-up. So that has provided some challenges in recent years in the sense that it did not have the most up-to-date information regarding residential properties as they became at least age eligible. So that is something that we want to ensure is not a challenge moving forward. Best practices, again, Adobe inspections, things like this, how to manage city-owned resources, what the policy is regarding a city-owned historic property versus a privately owned historic property. With city-owned historic property, the advisory role of the commission, should it be enhanced as relates to the interior and application of the Secretary standards for rehabilitation or restoration. And also the question of solar, which has been addressed in, for instance, the Borden Homes Historic District Guidelines and Tomlinson Estates. But I suspect that we're going to be seeing more and more requests for solar panels on historic homes. In fact, we had one recently, very recently, for designated property. They wanted to put the panels on the south roof, which of course is the most efficient location. Unfortunately, the south roof was the street front roof elevation. So that poses some challenges, and we do not have a formalized policy there. So all things to address and all priorities that have been identified that the office wishes to work on. With that, if there's any input as to what has been discussed or any suggestions as to what else may be of benefit to consider, that would be greatly appreciated.
Thanks, John. I wanted to pick up on two of your issues. The first one being Prop 207.
I'm sorry, Chair Buss, I missed the.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying I'd like to pick up on two of the issues you just mentioned. I guess the first and the last issues. I guess I've been on the commission for about 7 years now, and Prop 207 has been like the central issue the entire time. I wish we could get more guidance from perhaps the city attorney's office on what we as a commission can do to promote historic districts while staying within the Prop 207 laws to keep the city out of liability trouble. We have not had any new historic districts since Prop 207. It would be nice to see new ones, especially.
Well, I should note there was Date Palm Manor, although that is a very small neighborhood. I believe there are 39 properties, of which I believe something like 38 assented to the designation. So it's not your typical neighborhood in terms of property size or diversity of opinion.
Chair Buss?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Alex. We have been working with Sonia Blaine in the attorney's office, and Sonia and I had some pretty long conversations about 207 waivers. As the commission may or may not know, anybody that comes in for an entitlement through the community development department ends up signing a Prop 207 waiver for your PAD for any sort of upzoning. And right now, it's the de facto position is that in order to be in the district, you have to sign the waiver. I don't foresee that position changing, but I do foresee some letter or some formal recommendation from the city attorney's office moving forward that can be integrated into the HP plan.
Okay, great. That could help, yeah. And I'm sorry, John, I forgot what your last issue was that I was going to make comment on now.
I suspect, Chair Buss, you may have been wanting to comment on the solar panel question.
Oh, yes, solar panels, yes. As a homeowner, as some of the other commissioners have probably experienced, the solar industry loves to advertise and try to promote itself, and I've been contacted a couple of times, and I have even met with people about solar panels. I'm not planning on doing it, much to their dismay, but I find that I am one of those people with the front of my home in Tomlinson Estates faces to the south, and that's the main reason why I will not do it. To me, I feel like it would wreck the historic look of the home to have those on the front slope of the house. So, yeah, I guess we do need some guidance on that, and yeah, try to address the issue and put it out there for those in historic districts.
Absolutely, yes. And currently, we're using the certificate of no effect and works that do not require HPO or HPC review guidelines. All of those are quite clear about the roof line, whether or not it would be visible above the roof line or from the street. I know that the cities of Scottsdale and Phoenix both have policies specific to solar panels. And I do believe that having something of that type would be helpful for us. It would also be worthwhile to explore what options are now available. When I received the inquiry, I looked a bit into the solar roof tiles that are being manufactured by Tesla. Initially, they were to have a number of options, different colors, even some that replicated the look of clay tile. At the moment, it seems they only have black shingles or panels that are made to look like asphalt shingles, which may not be a bad option, although that's certainly something we would need to consider and discuss. But I think it would be very prudent of us to ensure that we can answer what I suspect will be a question that we receive with greater frequency moving forward.
Yes, I think it's something we need to address more. I think with the change in administration in Washington, I think alternative energy is going to be more of an issue and even more of a push to do solar panels. The other thing I was going to say, the salespeople for the solar companies, I tried to bring the logic to them that perhaps you could put panels on the backside slope of the home's roof on some kind of an old metal platform. They responded that that is technically possible, but it reduces the efficiency. They don't like to be creative in different approaches.
That's I've talked with representatives of a couple of companies, and that does seem to be the case. They're not all that eager to put, it seems at least, a great deal of time or thought into how to creatively address the issue. I suspect it may be that they get a sale and they hope to complete it and move on. And
right.
This is something that poses too much of a challenge, is perhaps perceived as not worthwhile at the moment. But that will change, as will technology. So it is something that we need to address.
Yeah, maybe the shingle material will pay off in the future. Did anyone else have comments on what John had brought up?
I particularly look forward to trying to articulate the day of demolition policy in the city of Tempe, similar to what Phoenix has done with regard to 30-day postings. And then, of course, working with folks to try to find an alternative site when they wish to stomp down on something, which happens a lot.
Vice Chair Butler, I'm there with you. I agree.
Anyone else have any comments? No? All right. Well, thank you, John.
Thank you, Chair Buss.
Let's move on to agenda item number 7, chair and staff updates. Did you have anything for us, John?
Yes, sir. Just a few things. At I believe it was the last commission meeting, there was a formal recommendation made to include 4 Southern Tribes Cultural Resource Working Group representation on the Historic Preservation Commission. That is moving forward. There has been revised, or language has been drafted that would revise the historic preservation ordinance to make that so. The first public hearing of that at City Council will occur on March 25th. I'm not sure when the second is. I suspect perhaps 2 to 3 weeks after that. But assuming it is supported by at least 4 council members, it looks as if the 4 Southern Tribes Cultural Resource Working Group will be represented and ensure permanent representation on the Historic Preservation Commission. We have also on the 25th of March 2 SHPO pass-through grants that will be on the agenda. Both relate in one way or another to the excuse me, Certified Local Government Program. The first grant is a grant that does not require matching funds from the city. It will be to bring in camp training, training for commissioners to be offered prior to the Historic Preservation Conference. In October, it will also help to pay for registration, conference registration for commissioners and for those traveling from outside the Phoenix area, cover some expenses as well. The second grant is so that the State Historic Preservation Office can put together a series of training videos for the certified local governments throughout the state. They will address various topics that may be of interest to the certified local government's operations, evaluation, et cetera. So that is another grant that does not require a city match. So the city is acting as a pass-through for the funds that were passed through the State Historic Preservation Office. We will be then working with a nonprofit partner to move those funds, or put those funds to use. Finally, on Monday, and this is something that has been discussed for some time now, and I'm glad it's finally happening. On Monday, Jacob Butler's gate panels will be installed at the Hayden house. The courtyard on the south side has a wall with posts that are up, but there are, as of yet, no panels in there. Jacob Butler was commissioned by Hensel Phelps to create a design that would depict the location, particularly speak to the location's cultural significance to the 4 Southern tribes. Came up with a beautiful design that includes the butte, the river, birds, visual representation of what was identified at the 100 mill site during archaeological mitigation. Those were fabricated at the prison in Florence and are now ready for installation again come Monday afternoon, assuming all goes well, should be in place. So that is something that I very much look forward to, and encourage everyone to have a look next week if you're downtown.
Great, look forward to it.
John, what are the dates on the conference now?
Yes, I do. Commissioner Montero, it's been postponed. It normally occurs in June. It will now take place at the end of October. It looks like pre-conference sessions, the camp session and whatever else they may have will be Tuesday, October 26th. And the conference itself will be Wednesday through Friday, the 27th through 29th. And I suspect that on Saturday, the 30th, they will have their typical post-conference activities, tours that have been scheduled for locations close to where the conference is being held. So a lot of, I suspect, Tempe related activities. But the end of October, that last week in October, the Tuesday through Saturday.
Great. A real in-person conference.
That's the hope. That's the hope.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Anything else for us, John, on item 7?
No, sir.
All right. And what about agenda item number 8? Announcements for agenda items, current events.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
I just have a question about our April meeting. Has it been moved up one day from Wednesday to the 13th, which is a Tuesday? Was there a need to make a change, or do I have it scheduled wrong?
Chair Buss, Commissioner Nucci, I will ask Brittany to speak to that. Brittany, is it not on the regular day because of a holiday or some other reason?
That is correct. It has been moved because of the holiday. I don't remember which one it is. I think it's Easter Sunday is infecting part of it, or sorry, not Easter Sunday, Palm Sunday.
Okay. So it is a day prior to when it would normally be held then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, could you say again what day that will be?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Let me just look up real quick.
Okay.
It looks, Commissioner Montero, it looks as if it would be Tuesday, April 13th.
Okay. Yeah, I have a different commitment on the second Tuesday of the month.
And Brittany, perhaps, and this can be done offline, we may want to double check. I have, at least on my calendar, that Tuesday the 13th, and I, as far as I know, this begins at sundown, is the beginning of Ramadan. So I don't know if we need to look at that to be in compliance with the city's policy, but we can discuss that offline.
Okay, sounds good.
If I may recommend, we just do a quorum check a couple of weeks ahead of that we can get enough parties present.
Good suggestion. Thank you, Vice Chair Ball.
All right, then I guess we will stay tuned. We will await your email to see what you come up with.
Chair Bus.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, this is Jared Smith from over at Tempe History Museum, and just wanted to make one quick announcement to be sure to check the city's Tempe 150 webpage for updates since we're in our grand sesquicentennial year. Practice that word a few times. 150th anniversary for Tempe. Definitely visit the webpage. There's lots of stuff going on. So I know you all are aware of that, but just thought wanted to give a plug out there for all the stuff that's happening with that. So there's a variety of activities and events and things like that. So just wanted to make that announcement.
All right, thank you, Jared.
And Chair Bus, Jared, if you could repeat the web address for the commissioners, please, Jared?
Oh, sure. I think it's, I believe it's the tempe.gov, Tempe 150. I think. I can verify that. Let me just pull that up real quick. Okay, here we go. It'll be up in just 1 second. Okay, so, here it is. Okay. www.tempe.gov /Tempe 150. And that'll get you to that exact page. So yeah, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you, Jared. And anyone else have any announcements? Okay. All right. Was that all you had, John, by the way?
It is, yes.
Okay, all right, great. All right, well, it looks like we've covered it all, so I guess we will adjourn this March 10th meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission. It looks like the time is 10. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good evening, everybody.
You too.
As well.
You too.